Hey guys, on this episode of EdTech, I'll be joined by Mike Tomei, Ernie Bailey, and Rob Raspberry as we talk about experience centers and peer reviews. All this and more on EdTech.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is EdTech, episode 73, Peer Review versus Experience Centers.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by BIAMP.
This is EdTech, the higher ed monthly tech podcast. I'm your host, Bill O'Donnell, and this month I'm joined by Mike Tomei. How are you, sir?
Good. Glad to be back.
Good to have you back, man.
Yeah.
As well as Rob Raspberry from Drexel. How are you, sir?
April showers bring May installations? I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
And as long as it's not a shower of sparks. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Ernie Bailey. How are you, sir?
I'm doing just fine.
That's good. So, first and foremost, we would like to welcome Mike Tomei back. Mike has been a regular guest on the show. We're just going to say that consulting and life happens. So once again, it is always a pleasure to have Mike back on the show and everything.
Yeah, thanks.
Of course. Actually, first and foremost, Mike, what have been like, we always like to kind of catch up with things, but what's been the latest to-do project for you and your fine consulting biz?
I'm working on a bunch of stuff. I really target kind of central New York at the moment with my projects. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of all the way from Albany area down to the southern part of New York State. Okay. I think. Is
it like the SUNY schools, or is it a mix of?
Bunch of SUNY schools, bunch of privates. Right now, probably 80% of my work is higher ed, and then 20% corporate work. I'm doing a lot of kind of credit union and bank work at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so extremely busy though. I mean, there's just so much going on with AV these days, and
it is a good problem to have.
Yeah, new construction all over the place.
Yay!
Yeah.
Actually, if anything, from an install perspective, I actually get more fun out of new construction rather than renovations, just because new construction, it's kind of like, well, okay, there's a change order involved with this, but at least it's like, okay, there's ways to adjust this, as opposed to renovations where it's kind of like, yeah, no, you can't go into the floor below. Why? Because there's still, you can't do a core drill there right now. Why? Well, class is in session. Okay.
Yeah. Or the building was built in 1920, and it's like, there's just a surprise everywhere you turn.
Yes, my all-time favorite was doing a corporate office building, and they wanted to mount a floor box directly to. It was weird. It had a false floor, or a raised floor, and they're like, "Oh no, you have to actually mount the box to the floor." Well, the thing was, no one had said that the cement floor was, I want to say, built back, like the whole building was built back in like the 1950s, so the cement might as well have been like petrified wood. So, I just looked and went, all right, well, have fun with that, and happily handed off a hammer drill to an electrician, went, have fun, bye. So, anyways. Yep. All right, so our first couple of articles. First one is actually off of innovateonthenet.net, and it covers how Sony has gone, and we've talked about in the past. There's been 4K, then there was 8K, now they've gone to 16K, and which is cool. My question is two things. One. If you look through the article, it's literally, as I say, it's about 16. It has about 16 times as many pixels as 4K display, which once again, the size, if you look at the size of this thing, it's freaking massive. I would hope so. But at the same time, I don't even know where they're getting the content. And then the second question comes out of this is, how are they even getting the content to the screens? Like, this has to be, like, I look at this and I go, this is just straight single mode fiber going straight into a converter or something. Like, that is just massive. I mean, it's cool, but it's one of those ones of not, as I say, it's cool. Once again, this is in the realm of the check out the Lamborghini. Oh, I don't know how to drive stick. Okay, but That's my take on this. And Rob's just shaking his head, going, "No, that will never happen at this school." Hear that, or please no, may this not happen at the school. Actually, that does bring up a thing, and that is, and this will be something I'll really ask more for you and Mike and Ernie on this one, and that is when it comes to things like video walls. I can appreciate the fact that it's got a big wow factor and it'll pop, but and Mike, this is something maybe for that you've been working on and seeing more as renovation and new construction goes on. Is that something that like folks are going, oh no, we want this, or is this really something that's really just more of look how far we can push it, or look how far we can go with this?
Yeah, so I think that the corporate clients are a lot more in tune with the video walls and wanting those for lobbies and public areas. I feel like my higher ed projects always start out with a big video wall in the lobby, high hopes that it's going to fit the budget. And it seems to peter out after a while because we just need the money elsewhere for the wet labs upstairs or for the teaching spaces. But there's always this high hope of a nice big video wall when you walk in and really showy. It's just not really sticking with a lot of budgets that projects that I've been working on, and especially not in the teaching spaces. I haven't had a need for like fine pitch LED video walls in classrooms really. I've done some flat panel display video walls, but those are more meeting spaces and maybe some lobbies. Go ahead. No,
the thing I was going to ask is this. In the corporate environment, I get that because it's an image and it's a branding thing. You're right. With the schools, it turns more into this would be really, it's almost a must-have. In the corporate environment, it's kind of a must-have because it's how you present yourself and how they bring themselves to clients. And you'd think on the higher ed side, that would be just as important, but really at the core of it when it comes to the students, and we've kind of talked about this here and there before on a higher ed level. Listen, we can put in the most high-end equipment possible in the space, but if our faculty don't know how to use it, it's the Lamborghini. It's we've built the Lamborghini and they don't know how to drive stick. Yeah, and it's once again, it's great. At the same time, I think also a lot of the corporate folks tend to have a content manager, and at the school level, a lot of times we either there is someone dedicated just to that, or it's marketing, and a lot of times that's outsourced too. But that's just my own bit on that. Ernie, what's your thoughts on this?
Starting out on the Sony deal, that looks like it's a single screen from the way I'm reading that. It's not a wall. And they said they had to create their own content for it.
Well, yeah.
So, it's one of those, yeah, that's neat. Do we really need a bus-sized display in a classroom? That's exactly how they describe this, bus-sized. 19 meters by 5.5 meters.
I mean, once again, cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's cool. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
So I think, sorry to jump in there, Ernie, but I think the only possible, well, I'm not going to say possible use at somewhere down the road is the wow factor. So as an example, we have a small video wall in admissions.
Right.
When the students come in and tour, they see this nice big screen when they're walking in, and it's like, okay, great.
Yeah. Maybe that's what they're going to do with my tuition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. In a classroom,
yeah, I could see it if you had a way to deliver multiple sources to it content. I see the digital canvas application of this, where you can put up multiple 4K. You can put up 4 4K images on it. Okay, right. Or 16 HD images. But going back to your video wall situation, I've got an interesting meeting coming up here in about an hour. I'm meeting with an associate dean. A department chair has decided that he wants to put a video wall in one of our small auditoriums. Now, this is a multi-use auditorium by multiple departments. We've got a very nice projector in the room, very new projector, but he wants to spend $50,000 because he's got $50,000 that he's about to lose if he doesn't spend it. He's going to tear up a beautiful architectural wall that has built-in whiteboard. I mean, integrated into the wall. You know, right now we raise a screen, they've got a nice whiteboard surface. We're going to lose all that, tear up this wall. And, I mean, they're presenting scientific images and spreadsheets in there, and they're going to have, 9mm bezels, but 2 of them at each point. So 1.8 millimeter gap doesn't sound like much, but when you start looking at it, on a 3x3 wall, tic-tac-toe board. Yeah. And it's not going to work with numbers or very intricate scientific images. So what I'm telling them is, if you're after the brightness, I can put in a basically 200 foot Lambert image, double the brightness we try to put in any room for $20,000. The same size as the video wall, which is 4 inches larger than the current screen. Okay. You're not getting a bigger image with the video wall. No. You can tell all your colleagues you have a video wall. I think that's where this is going. Like I said, this room is used by multiple departments. He uses it a couple hours a week, but he has not talked to the other users. We have a committee system that reviews any, shared space technology. He refuses to come to the committee that I'm on, discuss this. He's just decided he's going to spend the money. So I'm meeting with the associate dean and him, and probably my and maybe an associate provost at 10.
Now, actually, Ernie, there is one thing I just kind of bouncing off this for a second. With when you talk about, are you adding an additional projector, like stacking a projector, or are you talking about getting a whole new brighter projector?
I'm talking about a brighter projector.
Oh, yeah. All right.
A laser. I've priced it. We've got the same projector in a couple of the rooms. So we know it's a good projector. Mm-hmm. We rely on it.
Don't stare directly into it.
Right. It's a 15K laser.
Okay. Yeah. That's
139-inch wide image. Mm-hmm. We'll be projecting, HD, not even going 4K with it. But his video wall was not going to be 4K either. It was a single input video wall. So while there are 9 displays, you could only send one signal.
Once again, it looks cool. How does it work? Yeah. I have no idea, but doesn't it look cool?
And the way I found out about it was the integrator called me and told me he was coming for a site visit and wouldn't know if I wanted to come over there. Okay. On my campus. So
yeah, we've actually had a thing going on recently with our campus in that for the longest time we've had it, normally the hospitality folks in the student center have done their thing and we've done ours. But, due to budgetary shortfall stuff, they said, oh, hi. So can you help us out with some stuff? And we said, well, how much money do you have and what do you want to do? And this and that, we kind of, I built out the Cadillac, and I said, all right, if you need to, we can scale this down to a moped with a bell with the bike bell. And it's funny, they put in for both they wanted to upgrade. They have a 3-way divisible ballroom, and they wanted to update the whole thing. And I said, cool, that's going to be down for about at least 4 weeks. And because we're talking about pulling new cabling, electrical, the floor boxes are completely rusted out. So there's a possibility of, hopefully we can just replace the brackets. So there's electrical and everything else. And I said, oh yeah. And it's going to cost around at least about $100K, because we're talking about replacing new projectors, lenses, projector screens, the whole works. And they went, oh, well, we only have 30K. I'm like, well, I can do these 4 rooms downstairs then. And strangely enough, once again, I'm sure this is a common theme for everyone right now, is the fact that we're changing over FY years. So now all of a sudden it's going into, oh, okay, if it's not in by for us, if it's not in by June 30th, we get the money pulled back from us and everything. Rob and Ernie, I'm sure you guys both have similar. Yeah, if it's not on site by this date, it doesn't count. And no, we're not going to re-encumber the money from last year because it's an accounting nightmare.
Yes.
All right, moving on. The other one is, and once again, this is something that kind of really more keep on the horizon. This comes to us from avtechnology.com or avtechnology.com. And it talks about the new standard sets with HDMI 2.1. Now, if you're not familiar, this does not mean that, you have to go out and get all brand spanking new cables and everything. This is actually more along on the chipset. So in this case, it's the HDMI 2.1 chipset. And if you look through the article and everything, they've bumped up a couple of things. The biggest one is increasing the bandwidth from 18 gig to 48 gig, which bumps it up into the 8K realm, which, I look at and go, cool. Then the other part of it goes, okay, now that we're moving over into the AV over IP space, how does this work out? Because, before a number of manufacturers have all gone and said, oh, you can totally do this on a 1 gig backplane, or in some cases, oh, you know what? Did we say 1? We meant 10. Well, now I'm looking at it. Now, my theory on all this is we are going to be getting now more into the realm of compression and codecs and how do like I said, we've gone from MPEG 4, or sorry, we've gone from MPEG 2 to MPEG 4, and I'm sure they'll work its way up where it'll kind of compress it and reduce the bandwidth. In the grand scheme of things, honestly, the way adoption works out, it's as I say, it has been a bit of time, but I think it's going to be at least another couple of years before we probably start seeing HDMI 2.1, or at least stuff that says it's HDMI 2.1. I mean, if you look at any of the displays now, just now you're starting to get displays like, we have NECs. The first port usually has HDMI 2.0. The rest of them are 1.3 or 1.4. So I think it'll be one of those kind of rolling things. Gentlemen, thoughts?
I'll jump in. So, like you said, it really hasn't affected us at the moment, especially in kind of higher ed or commercial AV with 2.1. But it's interesting that going back to the resolution discussion. So this 2.1 spec says that they can get 8K down the HDMI cable, and then they were making mention of 10K, but who knows what kind of frame rate or what they're doing or compression on that. But it really hasn't. I mean, we're just kind of jumping into 4K in higher ed, so I mean, 8K is pretty far on the horizon for my projects, especially. So interesting to see that they keep pushing it ahead, but not really affecting me too much at the moment.
Well, you know what, Mike, this is what I'll ask you. And it kind of does affect it. It does affect you in the way of future proofing. So when you're going in and like saying specking cable and everything, like right now, what's your minimum? Like what's the minimum level cable that you're specking? Like, for us around here, most of the time it's shielded Cat 6, or if there's not a whole lot going on, we usually just do 6A. So.
Yeah, shielded Cat 6 in projects for future proofing. I mean, to future proof a project that's going in right now for to be able to handle something like 8K later would, probably the room is going to be ripped out by the time we're really looking to do 4K or 8K, sorry. But yeah, future proofing for shielded Cat 6 in there and that sort of thing. Yeah, that's a definite in projects.
Ernie, Rob, you guys just say fiber?
Yeah, we're playing with the idea of fiber, but really we're sticking with Cat 6, shielded Cat 6 in any of our spaces. That seems to handle anything we can do. Like Mike said, by the time we get around to 8K, we have real 8K content and displays. We're going to be replacing walls and floors anyway.
Yeah.
Buildings. That's what I'm thinking. We are, putting in 4K infrastructure, even though we're not seeing much content. It's just easier to do that.
Well, you don't want to see a pie. You don't want to see a pie chart in 4K.
Yeah. But we are putting in our first end-to-end 4K room right now. It's for a radiology video conferencing system.
See, now that's where it actually, that's where, in your case, Ernie, it is, there is a stark exception.
Yes.
In the fact that for you guys, there's a reason why there's medical grade displays. There's a reason for all these things, because, the contrast ratio, as I say, you need certain higher contrast ratios, and more importantly, you need the higher resolution because, that spot, that could be a, cancerous tumor spot, and oops.
Yeah. This is not actually a diagnostic center that we're putting it in, but they will be showing, what they did diagnostically to their colleagues in the room. So we didn't take the extra step to put in the true medical grade displays that you can, but we're still putting in, 86-inch 4K displays in the room.
Yeah, so let's put it this way: they're still going to be able to see quite a high amount of detail.
Right, and we did look at contrast ratios and everything else.
Yeah, I would expect no less, Ernie. Like it's one of those yeah. So in any event, once again, just this kind of boils down to. It's just something to keep in mind for the future. Do I think it's going to be one of those, oh my gosh, bite us in the back end kind of thing? Not really, but it's really more of just keep it in mind. Really, it does kind of boil down to, well, how do you future-proof? Well, here for us, future-proofing is conduit, making sure that there's enough flex space for fiber, and leaving pull string, but that's about it. So moving on. The last but not least on this one, it comes to us from commercialintegrator.com, and it covers over the fact that Vistacom has actually, which is a regional integrator and everything, Vistacom actually goes and builds an experience center and brings both their employees and customers into the middle of AVTech. So in this case, it's more the fact that Vistacom is an integrator, and they're actually showing off their own experience centers. Now, it should be noted that a certain number of manufacturers do tend to go and say, well, if you want to be a rep for us or you want to be a showroom center, there does have to be this much percentage of the equipment in the room. For example, like Cisco, if you want to show off their Cisco codecs and everything, obviously you have to use Cisco switches. They prefer that you use their their own Cisco equipment and mics and everything like that. But it's the way I view it is I like the idea of experience centers. I like it specifically that they're not beholden to one particular manufacturer. I know some of them really don't like that because they want you to play in their sandbox. But as we've said on the show before, AV manufacturers all have their specialties. They have some stuff that's really bulletproof, and then there's some stuff where you're like, cool, put this back in the oven. So I like it. At the same time, I think that there's definitely room for improvement in terms of, all right, so if you look through, they actually go through and show off a variety of some of the rooms they have, and everything's clean and nice and perfect. And yeah, I like that too. At the same time, I'd actually be more appreciative if they had things where showed like their own version of doing a retrofit, because guys, as well as I do, there's certain times where we look at a room and say, this would be perfect if we could do a core drill in here. Too bad we're in the basement. And there's ways where you can show off, like say, like Legrand and a couple other companies all have over the floor raceway mold and everything. Is it the prettiest thing? No, but at the same time, a number of these rooms we don't always have the budget. We don't always have the budget that we like. We have the budget that we're given. And I don't know. Maybe it's as I say, you know what? I'm looking at it now and thinking about it. It's kind of me saying, yeah, nice new car dealership. Hey, you got to show off some of the pre-owned cars too. But as I say, Ernie, what do you? As I say, would you? Here's my question: for you guys? Granted, yes, we do a lot of our own stuff in house, but would you ever want to go and visit like an integrator's like showroom just to at least kind of kick the tires before you guys drove off the lot, so to speak?
I have done that before, but I would really prefer to go see something they've installed for someone else. I know they're getting away from that. Mm-hmm. I would rather see and talk to a customer at the same time. You know, did you get what you thought you were getting? Mm-hmm. How did everything go? And what I found is that most integrators that have time to do their own conference room mm-hmm. aren't that busy for a reason.
It's a good point. No, you're right. The client sites are kind of a little bit, I think it's a little bit better because in the regards of you can actually talk with someone who's dealt with the day-to-days. Right. I'm sure, as I say, if anything, we've gone to other sites and everything, and I've seen how Rutgers does their stuff, and sometimes they go, "Oh, this was so great," and this and that. Is this homebrewed or is this like something that the integrator came up with? A lot more times I've heard from them it's been homebrewed, and it's one of those things. I think it would actually be better for like say the not the integrator, but I'm going to say the manufacturer to do kind of more homebrewing with like some of their clients. Like I said, obviously there's the wonderful world of NDAs involved and everything, but a little bit more outreach. Mr. Tomei, what are your thoughts?
I think with the experience centers, they're nice, but getting faculty user groups off campus to go to those is hard. It's really hard. It's hard enough to get them to go across campus to go look at a different department's room that just got installed as a benchmark. So getting a faculty group together and to go to a experience center, especially for me being in central New York, we're pretty far from the experience center. So I can't just grab people and drive 4 hours to New York City to go to an experience center. So so I haven't had much of a need there, and I can't really see bringing faculty groups there when you're working on projects. Usually it's benchmarking other rooms on campus or a peer institution that's maybe right down the street. I've been down those roads before with faculty groups, and those are really useful to do those benchmarking trips. Yeah, the peer review ones are usually good. The other thing that I've found that actually tends to get their interest, it's a little bit of a cost, but it's actually worth it in the end. You offer lunch. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that suddenly seems to go, I'll pop up for this. Just about every union meeting I've ever been to, they always offer a light lunch, and strangely enough, attendance goes up at least 50%. So, I don't know. Once again, welcome to the world of higher ed. Free, as I say, free lunch. Everyone takes advantage. Anyways, that's all the time we have for this show. Mr. Tomei, where can folks find you at? Well, my website is tomeiav.com. That's TOMEIAV.com, or LinkedIn. I'm always on there. All right, fair enough. Yeah. Mr. Raspberry? Always LinkedIn. There we go. And Mr. Bailey? I'm also LinkedIn. There we go. I'm Bill O'Donnell. You can find me on LinkedIn as well as on Twitter. That is all the time we have. Once again, this is EdTech, the monthly higher ed tech podcast. I'm your host, Bill O'Donnell. This is EdTech, part of the AVNation podcast group. Once again, this is EdTech.